episode 11. Non-Supercross episode.
Right? It's different.
Yeah.
It's alright, that week off was okay.
Yeah.
You didn't have to worry about watching the race.
Guys, the tables have turned. Literally, Derek and I are on the same side of the table tonight. We just wanted to get closer.
Right.
We have two guests this evening. We had our Moto Moms, Moto Wives last weekend to honor moms, Mother's Day. And tonight, Derek, I'm going to let you handle the introduction. But this is episode 11 of the Beyond the Curve, the MX podcast. It was a week off. No pro racing, but there was a lot of amateur stuff to talk about.
Big
and
time.
we're going to talk about amateur racing. We're going to talk about rain. We're going to talk about hair. Hair.
Right.
I mean, some of us still have it. And but first of all, before we get too far in, I'm Trey Heath with Michelle and Trey Real Estate. This is Derek Schaefer with DBS Custom Fabrication and Handyman Services. Derek, I'm going to let you, because you're the one that set this interview up tonight, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. Introduce us to our guest.
Alright, everybody meet Kylie from FCA Motocross. This is one we've been putting together for a few weeks now. I'm actually really excited to do this one. They're big into the motocross community, the amateur stuff. So I'm going to let you guys take the table and tell us all about what you guys do.
Yeah. So a couple years ago, I got involved with motocross ministry. And as a kid, my mom and dad would tell me when I was about 8 or 9, we were racing at Reddick, and people would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I would always tell people I didn't know, because I either wanted to be a pastor or I wanted to be a motocross racer. But they were both on Sunday, so I didn't know how that was going to work out. And then here we are. Like, God just put me in a position where I could do ministry at the track and still ride dirt bikes and preach on the weekends. And so that's kind of a really small, tight part of what we do.
That's awesome. Well, let's let you guys dig into it. So, I know last week you guys were at Sunshine MX.
Yep.
How'd that go?
It went fantastic. I try not to be biased as a pastor. Like you want to show love to everybody. I really think Sunshine's my favorite track in Florida. I love that place. Rob and Teresa are great people. They keep the track watered. I mean, they watered 15 times.
Yeah, the water truck was out before every single race.
Yeah, I mean it was awesome. Like the track stayed prime. It was a little slick first motos.
Oh yeah, going into the pit it was super sketchy.
Yeah.
It was so slick down there.
Yeah, but rolled second motos. It was prime.
So, what do you ride?
So I ride a 2020 KX 250. Still got the old kickstart.
We're on the same there.
Yep.
I got the same thing sitting in the garage.
Yep.
How about you?
KX Super Mini.
Look at you go.
Yeah. Ooh.
Well, how'd we do this weekend?
Third, so it was pretty good.
Which class?
11 to 16 girls.
Awesome. How about you?
I think 8th overall. 8th overall, but I'm going to take that because it was a gate of like 22 people. I was pumped.
That's not bad at all.
Like for an overweight pastor to pull 8th overall, like I'm okay with that.
Listen, man, I'm an overweight dad that's getting
Right.
old.
Right?
I can't do this anymore. So
You are talking about how old you are. I just turned 50.
I don't want to hear.
I mean,
Right.
come on. Like,
You're
Yeah.
still out there doing it.
Yep.
yeah.
All that matters.
Someone tried to knock some sense into me this weekend, but that was me. But I'm still ready for the next one.
And what you're doing it dodging trees. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, the funny thing is, for years I didn't start riding until I was 31, and then I went to Randy Yoho and went to Dade City. That someone said go to motocross school. So I at 31 years old was riding with the 5 and 6 year olds around the tires on Saturday morning.
Right.
My wife and I would go up. My daughter was like knee high to the grasshopper, and we'd watch Daddy go in circles. And I started riding. I did a couple motocrosses, and one of my buddies, and I'm gonna give him a shout out because he did really good this weekend. He's like, "You ever tried this thing called hair scramble racing? It's great time value money. You go, you race for 2 hours, and then you're done. There's no waiting for gates. You just go." And I started doing that, and I'm still not good at it. I took a 10-year break, came back to it, and then to add, let's tighten the forest up a little bit, I got into enduros. And this weekend was going to be 52 miles of enduros total, but total mileage was going to be over right at 70 because you had a 5-mile ride back to the pits after your last test this weekend. So it was going to be about a 70-mile day on the bike. And I've gotten to the point I'm terrible. When I say I'm terrible, I'm a B rider, but I'm not really because I'm just not good at it. But I have so much fun learning it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the nationals next year because why not try something different?
Yeah.
Go do it. So, yeah, I took a big one this weekend, but we'll touch on that later. Derek wanted to hide my face. I got a really nice little shiner on this side, but I want to get into the FCA stuff because I'm interested because we see the FTR has a chaplain. They used to have chaplain. It's changed over. We have a new one now, and they kind of follow the circuit. Motocross, Supercross, they have their chaplain that follows the circuit. Auto racing has the chaplains that follow the service. How does a pastor, chaplain, preacher, whatever the name is, how do they get into it to the point that they can travel the circuit and travel and kind of, I've got lots of questions on what you're actually offering to racers because we're all different. How does one get into, you said you wanted to be a racer or a chaplain. How do you decide, like, I'm going to throw all my cards in and see what happens?
So that I can answer that really with my own story. The simple answer, and then I'll unpack it, is, I mean, it really is like it's just a calling from God. Like, I feel like this is what God has put me here to do. You know, like these are the people God's called me to serve. And you know, like you have your local churches and like your brick and mortar churches. And when Kylie got into moto, it was going to interfere with church. So I was the deacon of youth at our old church for 8 years. And so like missing Sundays for motocross was like we couldn't do that. So anyways, we found this little series at Waldo on Saturdays. And I was like, well, that'll work. So I was like, well, do you mind if we do like a devotional before we start riding? I mean, this was a small series. We're talking like a gate with like, what, 5 kids on it?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it was super tiny. And so I started doing that. We did probably 2 seasons with them. And Nate Ingram at Moto Faith Ministries, he held a motocross camp, like a Christian motocross camp. And I called to get Kylie because she had just started riding. And I was like, hey, you know, like I want to come and serve. Like I just want to come and help. You know, what can I do? And he was like, well, you know, I don't really know you, but we'll give you a chance. And like you can take waters to the trainers and stuff like that just to help serve. And so after that, you know, me and Nate got a good friendship going, and I would fill in for him if he wasn't there or whatever. And a couple years ago, he decided to kind of step back, and he called me and he was like, hey, you know, are you interested in taking over? And I was like, you know, well, let me pray about it and just kind of see what happens. And it ended up being to where in 2020 we went to all the Supercrosses.
Yeah.
So we my wife bought me tickets. My birthday's in February, so like every year we used to go to Tampa for Supercross. Well, then they quit doing Tampa and they changed it to Atlanta. So we had already planned on going to Tampa and Daytona, and then my wife surprised me with tickets to Atlanta. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, she got 2, one for me and one for Kylie, because we do everything together. And as the dad, I was like, well, I want to do something cool. Like, I want to make it special. Like, no ministry in my mind or anything like that. Like, I just want to go and have fun. Tried to find some, like, backstage pit passes, like, more than just the normal pit passes. And I found this FCA VIP experience. And I was like, oh, I wonder what that is. And I clicked on it. And it was FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And I was like, well, I was in FCA in high school. I didn't know they did anything with motocross. So contacted the guy. I got 2 free passes, and me and Kylie went in. It ended up being a great time. She met a ton of riders. But we got to go in and sit in on their chapel service. And I was like, man, like I could make a career out of this. And so I talked to the guy, and he was like, yeah, you know, like it's all this, like he told me all the good stuff. And he was like, you should apply for a job. And I was like, okay. Well, at that point, I'd been at the University of Florida. I was a HVAC technician. Went through 4 years of school for it and all that. And, you know, made okay money, you know, working for the state, you know. And I asked him, I was like, so what's it pay? And he was like, oh, well, you know, you got to raise all your own money. And I was like, no, you know, like I can't walk away from a state job. I mean, I paid $90 a month for health care for the 4 of us. Yep. And I was like, you know, I can't give that up, you know, like I got to keep doing this, and then we'll just do motocross on the weekends. And we did that for, I think, two or 3 years. I would work 5 days a week, get off work Friday. We would drive to wherever we were having a race that weekend, and then we would do church, you know, Saturday, Sunday, drive home Sunday night, wake up Monday morning at 5:30 and go to work. And I mean, there was one time I think we went like 9 weeks straight without having a day off. And we were,
crazy.
because I was grabbing any opportunity I could. So if it was the Florida Motocross Series or the Boss Series, Winter Ams or whatever, wherever like I could help with ministry, I wanted to be there. And so this might be cool to you. So it's been probably 18 months ago now. Me and my wife, we started building what turned out to be our dream home in Lake Butler. And spent 17 months building this house. We had everything the way we wanted it. Our shower was 4 foot by 10 foot.
Big shower.
Dude, it was sick.
Wait, 4 foot by 10 foot?
Yeah, 4 foot by 10 foot.
Big
It's a
shower.
big shower.
Had
You can
two,
do a cartwheel in it.
yeah, had two 16-inch rain shower heads. It was
Yeah.
so. We lived there for 4 months, and we were heading home from Sunshine MX at a different race. And my wife looked over at me. She was like, "What do you think? Like we just start over? You know, like let's just do something new." And I was like, "Well, what do you mean? You know, because surely you don't mean like let's sell the house that we just like we still have boxes in the garage." And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well, let's pray about it and seek some wisdom." That was one of the things I was taught by like the pastor that taught me a lot of stuff that kind of shepherded me was. Always like look for wisdom. Don't just make knee-jerk reactions and then say, "Oh, well, God told me to do it," And so I did. I talked to a bunch of pastors. I talked to pastors that I didn't know, so like I could get their, just unopinion, or get their opinion without knowing me. I talked to a pastor out of state that I'd never met, and he was like, if he's doing all this, like. What do you want to do? Are you going to look back in 10 years and be like, I wish I would have done this? Or are you going to look back in 10 years and say, I'm glad I stayed at UF and did what I could on the weekends? And so we prayed about it. We got in contact with our realtor, and he gave us a price to list the house at. And me and Erica talked about it, and I was like, we need more than that. And it's in full disclosure, like I don't feel like I was testing God. But I was like, okay, if we can get this price, then we'll be able to make this work. So we listed the house for like, a little more than than they appraised for or whatever. And within a couple hours, we had a full offer contract, and they wanted to close in 3 weeks. And I was like, so I guess
that's it right
I
there.
guess this is it, So we have a 33-foot toy hauler that we use for the races, and shout out to Dean Diaz at Orlando. They have been such a blessing to us. I called Dean and I was like, "Look, dude, I'm going to be homeless in like 3 weeks." And he was like, "You're more than welcome to come and stay at the track." And so they brought us in with open arms. And so what's really cool now is with us doing ministry, like I don't know if anybody's ever said this, but like it's so awesome that I get to live at work. Like we live at the track. So there's kids there every single day we get to pour into. We had a kid in our camper before we left that fractured his collarbone this weekend. And the cool thing about us moving, and I kind of skipped over that, but when we realized that we were like called to ministry, we lived up in Lake Butler, which is near Lake City, and kind of the hub for motocross is Central Florida, Orlando, Claremont, all that stuff. So anytime we would have a kid get hurt, the best I could do was a phone call, And that's important. But like I said, having years in youth ministry, I know what it means to have a relationship.
Face-to-face,
yeah. And me and Erica had talked about it, and I was like, I can't take off from work every time a kid gets hurt and drive 2 hours. I had parents asking me about doing Bible studies at the track, and I was like, I would love to. And I was like, but I can't get off work at 4 o'clock, drive 2 hours to Orlando to have an hour Bible study, to drive 2 hours back. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it, and that was what Erica, when she was like, let's start over. And so now we're living in Central Florida at the tracks. We're there all the time. Going back to what I was saying, we had a kid that fractured his collarbone over the weekend in our camper when we left. He was hanging out with my son. They were playing video games, and just to be able to see those kids and pour into them, and I'll let Kylie speak into it a little bit, but it's really cool because having little kids on 50s and stuff, Kyle, there's a handful of girl riders that Kylie gets to pour into, kind of, I don't really know like as a mentor, but I mean, it's, tell them a little bit about like you and Oakley, like what happened this past weekend.
So we had a 50 rider this weekend that was hanging out with me and one of my friends. she's always like, we always like to ask her like questions like, oh, okay, like what classes are you doing? And she was talking to one of my friends, and she was like, oh, I ride my 450. And I was like, oh, you're a 450 rider, like you're pro and stuff? And she was like, yeah, my name's actually Justin Barsha. So she was walking around introducing herself as Justin Barsha this weekend because we kept on asking her if she was a 450 pro. So she kept on introducing herself as Justin Barsha.
That's awesome.
But it's like, with that, it's for me, it's like it's the ministry of presence.
Yeah.
So there's, I don't know how old Oakley is, 5 or
I
6.
think she's 6.
6. And like Kylie was like, well, I'll go to the gate with you. Like, I'll pack the gate for you. Like think back to like when we were that age.
Yeah.
Like imagine if you would have had a cool kid, that was like, I want to.
You look up to all the older riders that are at every single track.
Yeah.
I can remember it like it's yesterday. What I can remember of it from
Yeah.
all these concussions.
Right.
But that's why I mean, like I wanted to have you guys on here because it's what you guys do for the entire industry is amazing to me. And like the whole FCA experience that I had the same experience as you in Indianapolis one year.
Oh, okay.
We're always big into the Supercross races, and a buddy of mine, it was like 0 degrees out. We walked. Our hotel was a mile from Lucas Oil Stadium, and we walked over a mile in like sub-zero temperatures, and we wanted to get pit passes early. It was like one of the first ones. I've been to a few, and it was one of his first races, and I'm like, well, let's see if we can get some pit passes, and I'll do some talk. So we go over there, and nobody was there, and there just so happened to be an FCA lady standing there. And she's like, you guys want to join it on our service? And I'm like, what do you do? And she told us all about it. I'm like, that'd be awesome. And we ended up, we sat in on the service, and we did the track walk with the riders, and ever since then, I'm like, I try to follow FCA as much as I can, and I found you guys, and it just all played out perfect,
Right.
With this, and it's a really cool experience, and if anybody that hasn't had the opportunity to do it, like look into this entire system because it's more than just you. I mean, it's a big operation, and what they do is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I don't want to take any more of you guys' time up. Go ahead.
I don't know. Just like whenever we went to the VIP thing for the first time, like you said, we went to Atlanta. It was freezing cold, and we had met. I think it was Hudson, right?
Yeah.
And we like knew nobody because we're not from around Atlanta. Like we don't know any of these people. And Hudson was kind of like he was the leader of the VIP service, but he kind of like because my dad was so interested in it, like he took us under his wing, and we went back into the press room and like got to see where they do like the press interviews, and then what else did we do? We went to
We sat on the church service with Jake, Benita, and them.
On the church service, and then I'm trying to think of like we got into the like before they like opened up the pits, we got into the pits early, so it was like literally just the VIP service and the riders. So we walked around and we met a ton of people, and it was super cool because like we said, it's free, like it's a free VIP thing, and people think like, oh, you're probably just gonna get like a bunch of stickers and maybe they'll tell you like a little bit about them, but like they do so much in that VIP just for like I think it's like maybe 2 hours before they open up the pits, but it's like they do so much.
And you get to see behind the scenes of what actually happens. Like me as a motocross, rain cross rider, all that, I know what happens, but the average fan doesn't get to see any of that. Like the actual business of racing, and that's what we try to discuss a lot. But there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, and they give such an opportunity for free, to do that, and it's just an amazing. I'm trying to look for the word that I want. It's just a group of people, I guess, and what they have going on is just phenomenal.
Maybe conglomerate.
It doesn't matter. It's phenomenal what they do, and it makes me so happy to see it.
That's one of the things that I love about FCA. It's like, so with FCA, I'm a missionary, so we're a missionary family. We have to raise all of our own funding, but like you said, FCA gives so much back to the people that just want to come and check it out. Like a free VIP experience.
Yeah, you're not donating to just some random organization that like swaddles it in.
Yeah.
When people think of like donations, they're always like, where's my money going? Well, your money's going into something amazing. For many people, like they actually give back big time,
Yeah.
Where, you know, some organizations that aren't like that at all, you know, not even like church related or anything like that.
Right.
You know, there's some of these organizations that want donations that are just, you know, like Ponzi schemes or whatever. But this is far from that. Like,
Yeah.
It's amazing what they do.
So I have a question.
Oh goodness.
What's it like being the, I won't say chaplain's daughter, because that's not the right word. What's it like kind of having that pressure of being the child of someone that is revered? Because people come to you for guidance. Sometimes they're coming for positive. Sometimes they're coming because the house burned down and we don't know how we're going to race.
Yeah.
Or their son or daughter's been hurt. What's that like being the daughter of, and kind of having that pressure on being, you're related to a leader, whether or not you want to, it's your dad.
You got shoes to fill.
Yeah.
You know?
So what's that like for you? Because I've known, back when I played competitive tennis, one of my best competitors and friends was a preacher's son. He was the wildest man I ever met in my life. So what's it like being the chaplain's daughter in that world, because you're in the same world he's working in?
I feel like it's easy because me and my dad were kind of like best friends, or sort of, kind of, sometimes.
We're best friends.
But like, I feel like we help each other a lot in that aspect, as to where like it's easy for me to help him because I'm a teenager, so I can be like, I know it's hard for some kids to like open up, like not everybody wants to walk up to the pastor and be like, hey, I'm dealing with this, but I can like be there with them and kind of help guide them. And I feel like with my personality, like I've always just wanted to be like a helpful person. Like I'll help anybody like in any way I can. So I feel like it's kind of cool like being able to be like help those people, but like knowing that they might not be able to take that step on their own, and that like I'm there to help them take that step to like get the help they need, or like answer the questions they have.
You know, I feel like as a kid, it would be hard to approach an adult, and like being a middleman like that, I think for the kids' sake is probably a huge benefit, because you're not as scary as you would be,
right?
You know, in a kid's eyes.
Yeah.
One of the coolest stories, and then we'll kind of circle back to that, to what he asked you, because it's something we've talked about a bunch. There was a time we were at Orlando MX, and I don't remember what race, I don't remember what kid, but a kid fell, and there was a group of like 80 riders walking towards me, and in my head, you know, I got kicked into the pastor mode.
Mm-hmm.
Like I knew these kids were coming to me because this kid fell or whatever. They wanted to talk about it, or, you know, hey, Mr. Kyle, pray with me for these kids. And they walked right past me. And when I turned around to see where they were going, they went straight to her. And they were like, Kylie, like, let's pray for, I forget who it was that fell. But, like, she huddled all of her friends up and she prayed. And it was awesome. I was so proud, like, as a pastor and as a dad, to see the ministry, like, already being handed down, in a sense, you know, that it's that ministry of presence, you know, being there, being able to be with the families. And now they know Kylie, and so they skipped me and they went straight to Kylie. We were at PAX one time, and this guy called Kylie out on the gate. He's like, hey, preacher's kid. And Kylie was like, you know, looked at him, and he was like, how about you pray for these kids on the gate? And Kylie prayed over all the kids on the gate, and it's, you know, it's really awesome. But I think kind of what he was asking that we've talked about, because I've asked Kylie, I always loved motocross as a kid, you know, like I wanted to be a preacher as a kid, wanted to be a motocross preacher. So I think it would be awesome to live the life that she lives, you know. So that's what he was asking, you know, what's it like for you to grow up as a missionary kid, you know, as a motocross pastor's kid. You know, we've talked about it before, so.
I mean, I feel like it's kind of hard to explain, because honestly, it's like all I've ever really known. Like, we've always been involved in church, and always like dirt bikes have always been in like the picture, but I feel like just a couple years ago we started taking it really seriously. And I would say people think like with the church, they're like, oh, these people are like so perfect, and like they don't ever like do anything fun, or like, but then you think about it and you're like, dirt bikes are fun. And it's like, so it's like we're always like, people think like, oh, like it must be so boring, your dad being a pastor. And I'm like, actually, it's like the complete opposite. Like, we're always doing something. Like, there's never a weekend where we're not doing something. Like, we're going to a track, or going to an event, or supercross, or motocross. Like, there's always something, but then there's always like something more because we are there with the church, so it's like we're able to like go in deeper with these people, and like I feel like it's just such like everybody thinks it would be so like boring, like, oh my gosh, your dad's a pastor, how boring, but it's like it's so like there's so many opportunities that come with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun actually.
When was the last time you stepped into a brick and mortar church?
Probably a month ago, whenever we went back home to surprise our friends.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I was just curious because you're always
Yeah.
on the road, so
Yeah.
I kind of figure because that was kind of directed to you, but to turn to you, I have two questions. One, how is there's because we were talking about the chaplains and different. Is there a competition? I don't know if that's the right word, but coming from the business side of, is there a competition to cover these sports and be the chaplain at, like, hey, we want you, or is it just kind of you follow these series and this is where I'm led to? Because I will tell you, and the second part is, why are racing chaplains so good? I went to a national enduro, I can't remember if it was last year or this year, and the chaplain, there's a whole bunch of racers, and all of us come from different faith levels. But I will tell you, I sat there in amazement. It was just a prayer. It was about a 5-minute prayer, and he talked about baseball at a race.
Yeah.
And I sit there and like in awe of, how did he tie all this together? Where are we going and how did he tie it together? And I wonder, like, why are racing, because if you go to any race, I don't care what kind of racing, and there's a chaplain on site, the message you get, I don't care what your faith level is, you feel good when it's done. Like,
Right.
You feel good. And I always wonder, what makes y'all so different from when I go to the church and I just feel like I'm being talked, not down to, but like,
Right.
you need to go do this. And I go to a race and I'm like, I'm ready to run through the wall.
Like, yeah.
And it's the same message, just told in a completely different. So one, the business side of it, how do you expand, contract, and do what you're led to do? And then two, why are y'all so good at preaching?
All the glory goes to God. God is the one that lays it on my heart what to speak. But so to answer your, that's an interesting question that you asked. So talking about different ministries,
Yeah.
So there's other motocross ministries in Florida. We do it full time, like that's my full time job. So the example I want to give to answer that question is yes, no, and kinda. So because we're human, because we're males,
Yeah.
like I want to do my ministry. I don't need any help. I want to do my own ministry. That's the selfish kind of human side of me. So where I give the example is like, you look at many of those that they do every year at Gatorback. I think last year they had 6,500 pre-registered racers.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot touch 10% of that by myself. You know what I'm saying?
That's a big crowd.
So we have other FCA guys that come down. There's a guy up in the north. I don't know. He's up near Destin. He does a ministry, so he's out there. We're out there. There's CMA, which is a Christian Motorcycle Association. They're out there. There's MRO, which is Motor Racing Outreach.
Yep.
They're out there. So there's times where we can all come together. And one of the things that I love, that I feel blessed and fortunate, like being able to do ministry with my family, is like at the Florida Series, we have a big turnout for our races. But the beautiful thing is there's 4 of us. So I can reach the fathers and the racers. Kylie can reach the daughters and the kids. Erica can reach the wives and the moms. And then my son Waylon that doesn't ride, he can reach all the kids that don't ride. Because not everybody at the track races,
Yeah.
right? I mean, so Waylon's like, now that we live in the camper, I mean, that's literally our house. He's got kids coming in and out. They're back there playing PlayStation and watching movies, and the parents know where their kids are. Like, oh, the kid's hanging out with the pastor's kid.
Yeah.
So I love that we can do this together as a family. We had a kid this weekend, one of Kylie's friends, she got hurt, and I stayed with her, and it's so I don't want to say cool. It's I don't know the word. Like the kid got hurt. I ran out there to her, grabbed her hand, and she squeezed my hand, and she just started, like, she was crying because she had gotten hit by a 250F, and she was like, "Mr. Kyle, please don't leave me, please don't leave me, please don't leave me." So I stayed there with her, until we got her off the track, got her back to her camper, and then I had to go and do opening ceremonies with Dean to start everything. So I had to leave, but the best thing is I didn't leave her, because I told Erica, I was like, "Hey, I need you to go over there and sit with her and be with her while I go and do this." So ministry was still happening, even though I wasn't directly the one doing it. So, but there's other ministries, and I feel like we all try to work together. Like there's times, if you have a small crowd, you don't need 15 pastors there. But is there anything wrong with that? Absolutely not. We help out with the Boss series and they have their own pastor, and he'll call me and he's like, "Hey, you want to come, hang out this weekend?" So like I'll do the prayer and then kind of open, like we call it, taking the plane off, and then he'll finish flying it and land it. So like we just ministries that work together. Like I said, I'm sure there is that selfish human side of you that's like, I want to be the best and I want to do a better job than everybody else. But then the problem with that is it's not about me. I don't want the ministry to be about me. I don't want it to be. I don't want to die and people be like, "Man, Kyle's great." I want to die and people to say, "Kyle told me about Christ." Like Kyle told me, like I have a relationship with God because of what happened. And again, that right there sounds like I just contradicted myself. Like it's all about Kyle, but I don't know how else to explain it.
No,
So
it makes sense, and that was one of the curiosities because that leads to. Did we talk about the other stuff?
Not yet. No.
Okay, go on.
I didn't remember the second question.
Oh no, I don't know if I remember it now.
You have a habit of that
sometimes. I do. Sorry, I took a hit to the head this weekend. So we talked about the multiple. Why are track pastors
so good at
what they do?
So I think we're so good at what we do because we can directly relate to the people that we're preaching to. That's one of the things that I was talking to somebody this week that I love about, usually when people are looking for God in a circumstance, they're going to go to a church. So we're putting ourselves out there to be with those people because we all race moto. Like we're at the track. You're not gonna train and spend all this money to go to practice Saturday and then say, "Well, it's Sunday, I got to miss all this that I've been training for to go to church." Yeah. So we bring the church to them.
Correct me if I'm wrong on this. I feel like I'm not in your shoes, but coming from the shoes that I do fill, or the racing shoes that I've been in, those people are already in their happy place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that just makes it that much better.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't want to answer your question, but I feel like that, coming from the major racer standpoint, like, you're already in your happy place when you're there.
Yeah.
Even if you're down for the week, a terrible week, work sucked, family problems, like all that stops at the track regardless. And then to bring that into it, I feel like it's that much more exhilarating.
Well, it also doesn't make church a chore.
Yeah.
Like now I've got to pick. Do I want to go racing? Do I want to go to church? I feel like I need to go to church.
You combine it all.
But I'm happy when I'm at the track.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're able to combine it. But I think to answer your question with an example is like, and I even hate saying this, like I feel like I'm good at what I do because I can relate to those people.
Yeah.
Like if I was called to prison ministry, I have no idea what we would talk about. Like I know God would lead me through it, but if I was called to minister over baseball, I don't know what we would talk about. One of the cool things with FCA is they are in high schools, and I didn't know how to go with that. When we lived back up in Gainesville, we had a high school that my FCA supervisor wanted me to be a part of, and so I went in there to the football team, and I just kind of shared my testimony with them, and then off rip, I told them, I was like, "Look, I'm not here to like relive my glory days of high school football. Like I'm not here because I can't let go of the game. Like I'm here to tell you guys about Jesus and how much Jesus loves you, and for me in that moment, not knowing how to relate to them, I think to them, to the 16, 17-year-old boys, this guy just said, I'm not here to relive my glory days. Like, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Like, I could care less about football. God gave it to us to enjoy and all that stuff. But I'm not worried about watching the game or who.
Total agreement with you. I'm not.
Yeah, it's just not my thing.
Not a ball sport fan whatsoever.
Yeah, but the guy that I worked for up in Gainesville, he played college football, went on to play professional football, and the dude can preach your socks off. But same type thing. If he came to the motocross track, he can tell you about Jesus, but he can't directly relate to what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So he called me one day and he was like, "Look, don't worry about going to the school anymore. I'm going to try to figure it out." And for a second, I thought I'd done something wrong. I was like, "Oh, I thought that was part of my job. Why do you not want me to go back to the school?" And he used a football analogy that I actually understood. And he's like, "I'm trying to make a kicker be a quarterback."
Yeah.
And I was like, "I think I get what you're saying." And he was like, "I want you to focus your ministry on motocross because those are your people. Those are the people that you relate to." I go to a football game and we would sit in the stands and try to mingle with the parents and it just wasn't the same. It was hard. What made it easier for us is we were in a small town in Alachua, so we were at the First Baptist Church of Alachua at Santa Fe High School, which was a quarter mile down the road. So we knew a bunch of the kids because of youth ministry, so that kind of bridged that gap. But the kids that were in the school that didn't go to church that played football, we didn't really have anything to talk about. I couldn't tell them about the one time that I ran a touchdown or it's so with moto, it's those are my people. That's really all I kind of know. Outside of Jesus and being a dad, I know moto and that's about it. So
and to show how diverse the whole FCA system is, it's they actually are doing a little ministry at our down at Babson Park at our son's elementary school. They just started it last week or 2 weeks ago. Bright and early in the morning, you take the kids in at 7:20, and they do it till 7:40.
Oh, cool!
And they bring in a few different things for the kids, and so you guys are everywhere.
Yeah.
Yep. It's not just motocross, not just sports. It's a nationwide thing.
So one of the things that I think is really cool, and I want to get my family involved in it sometime. So FCA they do every sport: lacrosse, baseball, soccer, moto, skateboarding.
Mm-hmm.
They started doing what is called FCA All Abilities, and it's for kids with disabilities. Mm-hmm. So what they'll do is they'll bring the kids, that's wheelchair bound, out to a baseball field, and they'll set up a tee, and they'll have a whole game where this kid that's in a wheelchair that's never going to be able to run, they'll let him hit, and then they'll push him from base to base.
That's awesome.
Or they'll play football with them. They'll pass the football with them. We actually have an all abilities guy in Orlando, and I've got with him about coming out to the track because as a motocross guy, how cool would it be to be, a wheelchair bound kid and to be able to go to a track and let me sit you on a dirt bike and ride you around the parking lot.
Yeah.
Where do you get that opportunity?
Yeah.
I think that kind of stuff would be amazing, and that's all the way across the board. They take kids to cheerleading competitions, they take kids to baseball games, whatever, so on, whatever they want to do. But I think with moto, I think that'd be so cool to be able to mix that with all abilities and take these kids that are never going to experience that stuff on their own, and then be able to bring them in and to excite them with that experience, and then again share that love of Christ with them. I think that'd be awesome.
I agree. Yeah, because my wife has such a huge heart for kids with disabilities.
Yeah.
She's a speech therapist, so she tries to. She was in an all disability school up here. It's called Victory Ridge Academy, and she has such a heart for all that stuff, and she loves hearing stories like that. So we'll talk afterwards.
Yeah.
But it's amazing what you guys do. Period. Everywhere.
So Kyle, let's bounce back to you for a second. So you have your familiarity because you are the daughter of the track pastor. What happens? How do you describe what your family does when you meet somebody that has no idea that there's racing? You're a teenage young lady, you're out and about, or are you so ingrained that there is nothing outside of motocross?
I would say that we're like so into motocross that I've never really known anything else but
Okay.
motocross.
Okay. I was just curious if you ever went outside that bubble of the motocross. Of who is Dad?
Yeah, I tried high school for a semester and it was not my thing, but I was very involved in the FCA group at my high school whenever I was there. And it's hard kind of explaining to people that, like, my dad's a pastor, but we also don't go to church on Sundays. Like, we put the church on. So they're like, oh, well, what church do you go to on Sundays? I'm like, depends every weekend what track we're going to.
Yeah.
Like, there's never a specific place we're at, so.
That's pretty. I just think, well, first of all, that lifestyle, just the going, is that beats at my heart. That's how I grew up. My dad raced cars, I raced BMX, got into tennis, now we do this. My daughter's we don't know what it's like to be home. So that lifestyle is what I grew up in. I guess the next question for you is, you're led to where you are. Do you have thoughts of where you'd like to see it go?
I don't know. You know, we were talking the other day, and we got brought up. Maybe this answers the question. Somebody had asked me about retirement, and I was like, I don't know. You know, I mean, I plan on riding dirt bikes until I can't ride dirt bikes anymore. Yep. So if I'm already going to be at the track riding dirt bikes, I might as well just keep preaching. You know, I mean, you never run out of stuff to talk about. You know, like just how good God is. I mean, there's always something. You know, so I hope to be able to make a successful career out of it. You know, I mean. Not career like I'm doing it as a job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, so the biggest thing for us is just the only thing we're lacking right now is funding. You know, like we have to raise our own funding as a missionary family. We work for FCA, but we're still responsible for raising all of our own money. So I mean, that's the only thing we're missing. I mean, you know, I'm not drawing a full-time paycheck. So you know, I mean that makes things just kind of got to watch everything a little more, but. I hope to keep doing this for as long as I can. I mean, I love what we get to do.
If a national series came calling, would you look at that as an opportunity, or, I don't know how we're going to do this?
So, we had something similar happen, not with me, but with a real close friend of mine, and he's going to be the chaplain for a team, and they're on their way to California now for the first round. Yeah, with Chris. Yeah, and I was talking to my wife, and I was like, man, you know, I made the comment, and Chris he'll hear about this and all that, but I was like, you know, it would have been cool if I would have known there was like an application process or whatever. Like I'd have threw my name in there, and Erica, being the wise woman that she is. She asked me the same thing, and she was like, would you give up your Florida Series family to go and do that?
Yeah, that's the question that I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Like, are you willing to give up what you have here because you reach so many people here?
Yeah.
Like, is it about the job? Is it about the progression? Or is it about what you've already built? You know?
Yeah, so for me, once she said that and kind of brought me back down to reality, I was like, you know, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be willing to give up, you know, like my Florida family, you know, like I love those people, man. Like they are our church family, they're our track family, you know, they really are. They're our everything. I mean, we got home last night about 1:30 in the morning. I had a meeting this morning at 9. Went home for a couple hours, drove here. We'll drive back tonight, and then I'm driving down to Palm Bay tomorrow to hang out with one of our kids that broke his femur. And he's got a pond in his backyard. And I'm just going to go and sit and fish with him.
There you go.
I'd rather do that than go to Palo.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
well, there's a lot of things people would rather do than go to Palo.
yeah, like Matt Bell, the whole HBI. Like I know Matt Bell, and I know you probably watches this, and that whole HBI team. I love what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it would be an awesome experience for you guys as well. I mean, it just opens so many doors, but. Like I said, you're giving up so much at the same time. Like,
right.
Like you're getting so much, but you're giving up so much. It would be a hard decision.
It's like uprooting your family and moving.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like I would tell Kylie, like, hey, we're gonna go hang out with the pros. Isn't that awesome? And she's gonna say, yeah, that's gonna be awesome. But when am I gonna see my friends?
Yeah. And you don't know because you're going to be all over the country at that
Yeah.
point. It's hard, especially with kids.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I mean, Chris, that's doing it. It's an awesome opportunity for him, and I'm pumped for him. And I mean, and I know without a shadow of a doubt, like Chris prayed about it. Like he didn't make a knee jerk decision. Like I know that this is where God wants him. And what's really cool is he had another guy step in from FCA to take over the Alabama. It's like the King of the Mountain. Is that what it's called? King of the Mountain series?
I think so.
But so there's now a younger kid, older teenager that's doing the services there. So it's awesome that he's able to step down and the ministry gets handed off. It doesn't just stop.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, for me, no, I don't know that I could give up my Florida family. I really don't. Like, those people they've got a spot in my heart. Like I tell them, and I think it was weird at first being the pastor that just kind of came on and I waited 6 months. Like we did the dating time, and but now, like, when we leave the track, I tell our families, like, hey, I love you. Like, be safe. Text me when you get home. Like I want to check with kids during the week, like, hey, how's Austin doing, or whatever. Like, how can I be there for your kids? I mean, we went to the mall a couple weeks ago just to get out of the camper, and took one of the kids with us from the track. And it was like, dude, we're not going to do anything fun, but if we're going to go walk around, if you want to come with us, come with us and hang out. Because, like Kylie said, we're always going. So now when we're not around those families, like, we have this, like, void. It's like, where's all our people at? You know, like, we have a break from when we have our last race at the Florida Series to when we have our first race. And I mean, we're like driving to see people, hang out with people. Like, we're trying to set up ride days at tracks, and we're calling people, what are you doing for Christmas? Like, let's meet up. And luckily we have that break, and or no, it's before that, but like, we have a whole gang of people we meet up with at Minio's, and we'll get out there about 5:30 in the morning, and we'll just bounce from camper to camper and pray with families, and because I want to, not because I have to. Nowhere in my FCA stuff does it say you have to pray with these families. Like, I do it. You're doing what you love. Yeah, I mean, I did it before I even got involved with FCA. Like, these kids, they mean something to me. I mean, it really is. It's like we call them adopted kids. I mean, me and my wife, like, we wanted to have a big family, and God gave us 2 kids, and we also lost 2 kids. So, I just look at it as a way of God kind of filling that void. I mean, that was a hard thing to go through in the moment. Like, when you lose 2 kids, and then you look back down, it's like, man, but God's put all these other kids in my life, and while they'll never be my kids, like, I can't claim them on my taxes, but God's given us such a big group of kids. I mean,
we went through the same experience. We lost 2 kids as well, but to me, I think a lot of these kids, like, you are famous to a lot of these kids, because they look up to you. Maybe they don't see you on TV, but they see you every weekend, and you're that adult that is talking at the tracks, and to them, you are famous. Like, you have a fan base in a way, I guess, and so to give that up would be. I don't think I could do it either. With this, obviously, we'd love to hit a national series, and cover a team or something like that. But in another essence, it would be extremely hard, regardless of how you do it with the kids, and because our kids are our middle son's so involved in racing, but they've gained a family within the racing too, and that's half the reason we raced the Dade City Championship. For one, he's in the points race, but his friends and his now family that are there, it's hard to leave that. So I totally get where you're coming from.
And I think it's a very selfless measure to kind of play your role. And you talked about the family side of it. We only had one, and that was because my wife told me we had one and we're good. It's not a negative, it's just, but I was also a college tennis coach, so I had 44 kids over a 10-year period that I have one who's now an attorney asking me for a reference letter. Wow. And he's now almost 30, and we're going through that route now, and so those you find your tribe.
Yeah.
And you I'm not a preacher, but I can't tell you how many meetings I had of players that needed to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
And you become that voice. And that was one of the questions you talked about, Kylie reaching the kids her age and her ministering to them. And that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because for you, you're dealing, not every guy that's coming off the plumbing line bringing his kids to the track on Saturday night, spending the night going to race on Sunday, they're not super faith-based people.
Mm-hmm.
How one of my compliments about track preachers being so good is they meet people where they are. How do you know when to push and when to just be their friend in that instance?
I think it's
Kids are wild tonight.
I think it's a lot of just being a people person, being able to be relatable to the families. When to, I don't know when to push back and when to pull back, and just reading people. Like you can tell, like, okay, clearly now's not the time they want to talk.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of times where I'll walk up to them and I'll just pat them on the back, and it's like, hey, like, I'm praying if you need anything, I'm down there at the camper, because they're real dads, like us, you know what I mean? And like you said, I want to meet people where they're at, and not everybody's, I don't like super Jesus, followers or whatever. So there's dads that, like, they're ready to throw tools and, like, they're cussing or whatever, and I get it. I get frustrated too, So it's in those times where it's like,
it's a hard sport. Like,
yeah, like I'm not gonna, like, I don't want to, like, lay hands on you and pray on you and try to calm you down and then tell you that it's all gonna be okay. Like little Timmy's bike broke and it cost $8,000. Like, I get it, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
sometimes stuff sucks.
yeah, absolutely. And that's what I try to meet him there, and I mean, is that kind of where you're looking for?
I think that's where you excel at this, though, too, because you have kids that are racing. Like, what it's like. This weekend, we had an incident. Bowen kicked off his coil, and I thought I forgot to put gas in the bike. So I pushed him off the track, just cussing myself out in my head.
Right.
Because, you just ruined this kid's night. And I was fit to be tied. I probably would not have been able to talk to anybody. I know I couldn't have talked to anybody because my wife has tried to ask me some stuff, and I'm like, I need a minute. Because, and then, I pushed him back to the toy hauler, and he's like, Dad, my spark plug's hanging there. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I put it back on, it fired right back up, and then I was just that much more mad.
Yeah.
But you understand what these people are going through because you're doing it with them.
Right.
It's not just some random preacher, some random guy that's coming up to them and, just trying to speak verses or anything. Like, you are living this with them as well.
Yeah.
And yes, you answered my question, because the direction of that question was because my father, back when he was the head coach at Weber and the athletic director and stuff, the pastor that married my wife and I, he was this fiery, redheaded little guy.
Yeah.
But he wasn't always a church pastor. He was a military chaplain.
Okay.
So his life was these guys who were trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
And when he retired from the military as a chaplain, he got into the church ministry. We'll say brick and mortar ministry.
Right.
Well, he came to our little church in Babson Park, and he would just come to my dad's office, and my dad was like, we'll tell it how it is. We're going to go cut loose. We're going to party. But he also loved his players.
Yeah.
This Pastor Dolph, died, passed away, but he would come sit on my dad's couch, kick his feet up, and they would talk.
Yeah.
And just talk.
Yeah.
And my dad said, Pastor Dolph came to see me today, and they would just talk. He met my dad where he was, and that's always been kind of the measure of I used to go to a church and many years ago, and I, like you guys, I played sports. We're not home on Sundays.
Yeah.
And on Wednesdays, we were practicing, and we couldn't. well, we're missing you here. You're not here. You need to be here. And I'm like, I can't be here. If I'm doing the sport I love, I can't be here. And I didn't feel welcomed.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of, whether you have faith or not, that comfort. The comfort of having someone that's just on your side. No questions asked.
Right.
Yes, I would love for you to come to my side, but I'm here for you if you need me.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I think that, I'm not doing it derogatory, the track pastor is someone that can meet those people. And to have a family that's along with it with you
Yeah.
is even better, because now you got the 4-prong approach like
Yeah.
you were talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, my daughter doesn't race, she does horses, but meeting some kid that just wants to hang out and just, hey, I'll talk to you as,
Yeah.
although she'd love to pick your brain, because as a racer and she does horses, you're like, hey, you ever been bucked like this on the bike? And she'd pick your brain for hours on that part. But that, I think that's where the question was coming from, was how do you meet these people? And you just know. You just
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I got another question for you. What is the number one lesson that you've learned from your dad in this industry? And I know it's a calling, but it also is an industry. What have you learned from him that you use on a daily basis?
From like a ministry aspect, or
Just
like,
what the number one lesson you've learned from your dad?
I would say, even though sometimes, like you said, like sometimes like when the bike isn't working or something isn't going right, like your immediate reaction is just to freak out. I would say one thing I've learned from him is just to take it one step at a time. Like, don't overwork yourself or overthink to the point where it doesn't become fun anymore. Like, just take everything one step at a time.
I like that.
Yeah.
And that's tough for a lot of. I mean, I'm an adult, and I will tell you, when I crashed on Sunday, and once I assessed that I was just mad, and there's some damage to the bike, there's some stuff, but I've had a day to. But that moment, if you have that calming influence already, congratulations. My daughter, when she was 13, 14, how old are you?
About to be 16.
Oh, sorry, 16. When my daughter was 16, I will tell you, she was not calm. 20 years old, it's a completely different child.
Right.
Like, she drives herself back and forth to Tallahassee, hauls her own horse trailer around and everything.
Cool.
But at 16, we weren't there. And to have that calming presence would have been a nice change. I love her. Hi, Brianna, I love you. But yeah, at 16, we weren't quite there yet. Now, around other people, she was a calming influence. Around mom and dad, it wasn't calm.
Yeah. So I will say they are brother and sister, so they have their moments, but really have, like, God's blessed us with two great kids. I mean, polar opposites. Like, Waylon would have never came to this, and if he would have came, he would have sat in the truck, wouldn't have said a word. Not because he's rude, he's just really introverted, and she's really extroverted. You know, so we've got two really good kids, though. They've been good kids.
I'm going to say this. I appreciate the fact that, as a almost 16-year-old, the fact that because everybody cares about what they look like and the filter that's on it and all that, and the fact that you're just sitting here talking with 3 adult men about motocross and FCA and the Lord is, like, pretty impressive. Like, most people, especially ladies and guys I think are even worse. I think a 16-year-old dude sitting right there, we would have only got like out of you. So the fact that you're willing to talk publicly, it says a lot about mom and dad, but it also says a lot about what you feel inside and where do you see yourself going from this point? Are we going to college? Are we going straight into ministry? There's not a women's pro stuff now, so that's kind of tough. But where do you see yourself going?
I definitely want to go to college. I've always wanted to, like I said, I've kind of have that, like, helpful personality. So I've always wanted to do something with physical therapy. Like, whenever my dad broke his collarbone, I went to every single appointment and I fell in love with it, like, the first time I went. So that's definitely something I want to do. But like he said, he kind of doesn't really want to stop doing ministry, but, like, I'll always be there to, like, pick it up whenever he does. Like, it's something that I'd say, like, since it is, like, I've gone to church ever since I was born. So, like, it's something that I've always been around. So it's like, I want people to feel the joy that I have from what God gives me and how he loves me, and I want other people to be able to see that and see that whenever they are going through something hard, that there is someone there that like truly knows everything and knows what's best for you. And whenever one of your friends says, oh, well, you know, everything happens for a reason, but like God really says everything happens for a reason. Like you may not see it in that instance of, oh, well, like you said, like a couple weeks ago we were at a race and my bike wasn't working, my clutch jumped the gate every single start. It was terrible. And I knew, like, me and my dad were both upset about it because we couldn't figure out what went wrong, but it was just like taking it one step at a time and just knowing, like, there is something that's going to come out of this. Like, even if it's not a good finish, like, we had a really good weekend overall. Like, nobody was hurt, the bike was fixed, like, we got it all under control. Just, like, I guess just really, like, taking it, like, one step at a time and really, like, seeing what God has out for you.
We might have a title for this episode. One step at a time.
I agree with that.
I got Derek, business side of things. Physical therapy, FCA. Dad, if you can hang on for years, they need physical therapy at the race all the time. We got a mobile physical therapy office. I used it this weekend. But no, I mean, that's awesome, and I think it's funny you talk about that, about you went to all the stuff. It's funny how you're drawn to things and the interest peaks, and being a girl dad as well, I see that you're so enthralled with their growth and your maturity and your willingness to speak to us. We don't have a huge following, but the fact that you're willing to sit here and put yourself out there is something that is, Dad, congratulations. Yeah. And Erica, congratulations.
Right.
But your son, there ain't nothing wrong with that either. I would love to sit in the hole sometimes too.
So the cool thing about Waylon, and then I want to touch on something for Kylie, but so Waylon, he is the way he is, but he's very behind the scenes help. If I need a table set up, if I can't find a banner, Waylon, we go grab my Bible. I need my notes. We need some donuts. Like, Waylon's on it. Like, he doesn't want to be praised. Don't tell anybody he did it. He just wants to do it, and then, you know.
I can help you with the donuts.
Yeah. So yeah, we started that. We'll have to get on that here in a minute. We had a good weekend. Had a donut eating contest. It was pretty wild. But
I'd be jealous of that.
I want you to I want to talk to you about kind of what he asked and something we've talked about, you know. So she's having a heart for ministry and having a job and staying in moto, you know. Me and Kylie have had a lot of rough conversations about the reality of, you know, she'll tell you if you ask her, like, she wants to go pro, but she knows there's no future in it, unfortunately.
At this point, yep, it's
so,
the reality.
Yeah.
So she had talked about, you know, like, well, what if I went to school, became a physical therapist, and then got hired on at, like, MTF, and I was there, or what if she could get on with, I mean, Star Yamaha seems to be hiring everybody, so, you know, what if they hired her as a traveling therapist?
Yeah.
Or what if she could get on with Alpine Stars, working with the medic team?
Yeah.
And then that's the way she can still do something she wanted to go to school for. She can still share that ministry, and she can still be involved in motocross. So, talk about kind of what me and you've talked about with that, some just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would say, like, with physical therapy, there are so many opportunities for it because in every sport someone gets hurt. And especially motocross, like you said, you've got, like, one of my friends got ran over this weekend. Like, it's just bound to happen. So it's like, I feel like it was definitely, like, God's plan for us to be in this sport because it's something I'm really passionate about ever since. I think he forced me to go with him to the first physical therapy appointment. I didn't want to go. I was like, Dad, this is going to be stupid. Like, I don't want to go and sit in this room and watch them stretch your arm for an hour. Like, it's not what I want to do. And I walked in, and I was just like in awe of what they were doing. I was like, this is so cool how they just, like, are, like how he got his 4-inch motion back. I was like, he has a whole plate in there, and he can just bend his arm like it's like nothing was ever broken.
Be honest, you were laughing because they were making him scream.
Oh yeah. Our conversations on the way home were very interesting about what he was feeling, especially the ice. The ice was his least favorite part, but I feel like there's so many opportunities with physical therapy and racing that it's just like it was kind of just like bound to happen. So.
And I think it's awesome as you're talking about that ministry. I was thinking of like Star and MTF and Alpine Stars and what was the other one I was thinking? There was another one I was thinking was you were throwing those out, and it's like, yeah, there really are a lot of opportunity. Plus, you already have the personality that you're not scared to talk. You could eventually create your own destiny based upon those things. I mean, how did Dr. G become the Dr. G?
Right.
He didn't. It didn't just happen. But now he goes to races. I mean, the guy works a full practice, and then he's at every race.
Yeah.
So maybe you create something. Maybe it's a Florida-based thing, and who knows?
I mean, just right here in Florida, man, she could be a traveling motocross therapist. I mean, we've got Baker's Factory's here. I mean, there's a ton of clubs here. You know,
most of the riders are here, and we've talked about this week after week. Is they come here to train? They're always here. So just to be with one of the teams, you know, your riders are here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And I think it's cool, like with ministry, how we're into it. She could do physical therapy, and I mean, how much better would it be for you if you go to physical therapy and you know this guy had went to college for physical therapy and that's all he knows, but then there's also somebody that went to college for physical therapy that also rode motocross.
Yeah.
So they're able to so this is what you did.
Yep.
Well, let's try this instead of just like, you know, this is what the book says. Like Kylie can say, okay, well, let's try this, you know.
Just on a side note, all that background noise you hear is it decided again to pour. So we're outside of the beachfront studio, poolside studio, and the rain subsided. We had about 3 inches of water on the deck earlier. It's all gone. But now it's decided to give us another late night shower. So the background noise you're hearing is not someone running water or someone going to the bathroom. That's actually rain falling. So
Between rain and kids tonight,
Yeah.
be lots of background noise.
But it's real. It's real. You know?
And that's kind of how we started this. We don't do a lot of editing. We're very also raw in our conversations as well, is because it's just who I am.
Yeah.
I read books for kids on YouTube, and I mess up. We don't go back. I just keep talking and going through it, and because I'm not the full production person.
You connect with more people when they're on your level. Like some of these other podcasts, even like James Stewart, you know, the Bubba's World, where it's so, you know, silent, so produced. He's a pro, and that's how you look at him. Like we don't want to be on that level where we can't be connected with.
Right.
It makes this so much better. But and what I wanted to bring up is like with you. So Trey Kennard is one of my all-time favorite riders, and I feel like you two have a lot in common because he's kind of like in the same path, you know. And Trey is just such a down-to-earth guy. He reminded me just of him. And like even on our wedding day, Brianna and I's wedding day last August, he sent me a video on our wedding day, you know, congratulating me and telling me all about it. And it's just, for some reason, you remind me of him so much, and just like the whole thing that you guys have going on, it reminds me of all that. And it's awesome.
Yeah, Trey does a lot with FCA.
He's such a down to earth guy, and that's what drew me to him originally when I was a kid, and then, you know, just as the years grew up, and I went to a lot of his races. And
time out. I'm so old. Trey, he was drawn to Trey Kennard when he was a kid.
Yeah.
You'll understand this at some point in your life.
Let that sink in a little bit.
That really hurt.
Let that sink in.
Yep.
Oh wow. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
No, but it for some reason the comparison, it's just like it hit my mind right now.
Yeah.
You know,
Must be the hairstyle.
Maybe.
Trey, if you're listening, I could use some riding lessons.
So can my boys.
Speaking of the Trey Kennard, what is the? You guys, you're at, I guess, Orlando every week, all the time.
All the time. Yeah, we're going there tonight.
Okay. Where's the next? What's the next event? What's coming up? What do you have going on to kind of get us as we start this summer process? Where do you guys go?
So this is usually where I look over to Erica and I give her the mic and let her handle it.
What's my schedule?
Yeah. So our next race with the Florida Series is Tampa, but Kylie actually turns 16 on the 25th. So 3 more days, and she'll be 16. My baby will be 16, man. So we're going to do some birthday stuff and hang out. My mom's coming down from Gainesville, and she's going to hang out with us. We're going to try to go to the beach one day. Then we actually have to go back up to Gainesville to get our toy hauler worked on. So we'll be there for that week, which is going to lead us up to the amateur regionals at Gatorback.
Yeah, there's a qualifier.
Yeah, we'll be up there for that. We're not racing for Loretta's this year. We hope to go to do ministry, because FCA at Loretta's, they have a presence there, so we want to go and check all that out. And then there's a race actually at Waldo this weekend. So I don't know, man. It really is kind of fly off the cuff. I mean, we have a calendar and we try to stick to it, but if something pops up and we're able to come, then that's where we'll be. But so next for the Florida series is June 11th at Tampa MX.
Okay. All right. Because I'm taking a different route on my racing career. I guess as an amateur old man, I guess I have a career. But I'm
a vet
athlete. I'm only going to do one race a month, kind of from this point forward, because I'm going to do the National Enduro Series, and they race kind of once a month, nine races for the year. But I want to get out and start covering some more of the.
Yeah.
One of the club leaders for FTR, he found out what I was doing. He's like, "Hey, that means you can come work the races." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's kind of what I want to do. Is I want to go, like, when we're home, I want to go and help with the track. I've never done it that way, so I'd love to come cover one of the FCA, like cover a chapel service on a Saturday night, or and see what that's, so people can see kind of what it's like. And just shoot some raw video and like, hey, look at these are the people. This is what's happening. Maybe shadow you around on a Sunday morning and what's it like, and do a little, not a vlog, but I'm too old for a vlog,
right?
But just shoot some video and piece it together and say, here's what it's like to be an FCA pastor.
Yeah, bring your walking shoes.
I got you.
We were like somewhere between 25 and 30,000 steps yesterday.
I got you. I'm good with that.
Hiking.
I'm good with that.
I do have something coming up that I forgot about because we just started it last Wednesday. So back to the whole brick and mortar church and what we want to do at the track. We have now started a Wednesday night youth service at Orlando MX. So Little Dean trains on Wednesdays, and when training's over, we have parents each week sign up to bring dinner. So while the kids are eating, I've got them somewhat contained, like I do a Bible lesson while they're eating dinner, and then after dinner we have a game that we play, and we just kind of hang out and fellowship after that, and it gives me and Erica time to reach the parents, that might not come on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
At that point on Wednesday night, they're already there. Yeah. Now their kids are playing, and it's just like, well, who do we talk to? So now me and Erica have a chance to come in there and talk with the parents. It was great last week. We had like 3 dishes of spaghetti, and we celebrated Victoria's birthday, and then we had a game we called Holler for $1, and you basically lay $1 down on the ground flat, and you have to hold your toes and jump over it. It's not as easy as it sounds, I promise. So
I don't think I can reach my toes.
Yeah. Well, imagine reaching your toes and jumping and not letting go of your toes.
Well, I might need that physical therapy.
Yeah.
Can I just pull the camera back and we can?
Nope.
So
I'm still healing, for God's
right?
sake. I don't need anything else.
Right. I haven't started healing yet. I'm still hurting.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah. I texted one of our families, the mom's a PTA, and I texted her today, and she was like, so what'd you hurt? And I was like, both ankles and my right arm. And she was like, both ankles? How are you walking? And I was like a newborn penguin. Like that's what it looks like. I'm not running anywhere. So yesterday, towards the end of the day, we had a couple kids go down. We had 29 motos, and we had kids go down in 26 and 27. And finally, I asked one of the dads. I was like, "Let me take your pit bike. Like I can't walk no more. Dude. Like my ankles look like marshmallows." So it's a lot of walking.
Do you like watching Dad? We have a management theory. By the way, I'm gonna bring you up in a second. But do you like watching Dad ride, or do you wish Dad would get off the bike and just lead the people?
Tell them the Pat story.
So me and my friend were sitting in the bleachers, just hanging out watching, and it was actually my dad's moto. And because I'm a motocross kid, I'm always doing 100 things at once, so I never really watch his motos. So this was like a rare thing. I was watching his moto. Well, he's doing pretty good, and then he goes over the finish line, and he just like does like a cartwheel in the air, and I was like, what is he doing? Like, how did he just do that? And I look at my friend, and I was like, did you just see that? And she was like, yeah, I have no idea how that happened. And then, so sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm like, maybe we should just tone it down a little bit, maybe stick to one race. But I don't know. I like watching him have fun.
So I got off the track, and she was like, Dad, so embarrassing. And I was like, what? And she was like, you're trying to do tricks on the finish line? I was like, no, I got cross-rutted. I got thrown off the bike. Like, I wasn't trying to do a trick.
It looked like he was trying to throw a whip, and then he kind of just did a cartwheel. And I was like, what is he doing?
And the reason I bring that up is because for over a year now, Derek has a tendency to make himself ail a little bit, and so we've been talking about getting into the management side, and this is one of the processes was starting this podcast and with his own children, and yesterday at my race, my buddy Jason, by the way, congratulations Jason, he finished second in the 35B yesterday. He rode an amazing race. Like, we did 2 of the tests were the same tests, and the second time through he gained 15 minutes on the first time. Like,
jeez.
Yeah, like you don't do that, and it was like he just picked up the pace and he was flying, and he ended up finishing second. And so, good job to him. That race has knocked him out. That was his 3rd attempt at finishing this race, and he finally got it done. I'm now 0-2, so I figure maybe next year I'll. Right. It's not on my schedule for next year, but I told my wife, I'm like, we're going back. I'm not letting him beat me. But he told me yesterday after my crash, he's like, hey man, you've been having that discussion with Derek, so he's listening to us about getting into management. He said, have you thought maybe it's time for you to shut it down? I said, no, I'm not ready yet.
Right.
But no, so you got brought up yesterday in a positive role. He's like, you've talked Derek into going into management. Maybe it's time for you to take that role too.
You had a part in it. It's still not 100%. We were sitting at the track Saturday, and I'm like, man, that bike's looking good. Buddy had a bike there. Kevin, who was on one of our podcasts, his bike was in the back of the toy hauler, and I'm like, dude, had I brought my gear, I'd be running that thing.
Right.
But it's still there. You can't ever get it out of you. I still ride, but I try not to line up, and my wife has told me if you line up, I'm signing papers.
Right.
So, but
before we get out of here, real quick, Dade City was kind of a mud fest this weekend. Tell us about Dade City. Because it was supposed to be round 8.
Yeah, it was round 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they ran one set of motos and ended it. We turned it into we didn't, but it turned into a monsoon. It just totally wrecked the place. We had a bad weekend. Like I said before, he kicked his coil off the bike, and just going around the turn. I'm not quite sure how you get your foot up that far or what happened. He said he hit a rock and it come up. But,
it's called youth.
Yeah,
right.
But the coil came off, and but because of the rain, you finished as you placed in Moto 1, so we had a DNF a DNF.
No.
So we still ended up like 7th, which wasn't terrible out of like 12 or something like that. So it wasn't last, but it wasn't where we should have been by any means. But yeah, everybody had a rough weekend there. I don't know what it was. We had Future's new rider, Caleb. He's in the pits with us. He pits with us, and he forgot to fill his bike up, and that kid was running a race. Oh my!
Have we had this before?
A little too many times actually.
Oh.
It happens, and that was the first thing that I came to was you forgot to put VP in his bike. Like, oh, yeah. And it irritates you because that's my responsibility now.
Right.
And other than that, between all the 50s riding together when they probably shouldn't have been together, it was a good weekend though. We were there all weekend. We had fun. It was family time. We got to hang out with friends, and like I said, it's hard to leave that. That's why we raced the series. But what is it? August 13th. We will be with these guys at Dade City for the Dade City race, and then the Florida series. We're going to race it all and be with you guys there. So definitely be at that.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
It's going to be a good time. But
if I don't go to Alabama, I'm going to be there as well. I may find something different to do just because since I'm just kind of training until January. Yeah. I may find something different to do, but if I'm not there, I'll be with you guys. So the weekend, you both raced this weekend. How we talked about cartwheeling, we talked about riding. How was the overall weekend? Was it a series or was it just the Orlando?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was our third round. It's the third round of the Florida series.
Okay.
And it was good. I don't remember how many people were there, but I mean they had huge turnout.
Which track was this?
At Sunshine.
Sunshine.
Yep,
Okay.
up in Jasper. Yeah,
Sunshine.
Sunshine State.
Sunshine.
Yeah, that's one of our favorite places to go to. Like that was the hard part about moving is we were only like 30, 45 minutes from there, and now we're like 4 hours from there.
Yeah.
Does that soil look kind of like a pack soil, or because Jasper and Jacksonville aren't too far away, are they?
So, not. I mean, I don't know. It's the difference of the coast, really. I mean, the coast in the middle of the state, but the dirt at Sunshine is what I'm thinking the dirt in heaven's going to be like. I mean, it was just the way they take care of that place is amazing.
And that has a lot to do with it.
I mean, it.
There was water on the track all day.
Yeah. But it was. I mean, again, it was soupy in the morning,
Yeah.
but
You'll have that with the moisture in the
Yeah.
air.
yeah, exactly.
It's hard to get away from.
Yeah, but yeah, we had a great time. We went to Moto Bros before that, and Moto Bros we had a monsoon come down. We only ran one moto, but Jason and them, they did a fantastic job on the track. Like I was doubting them. I was like, "There's no way the track's going to be rideable."
Yeah.
And I mean, if it wouldn't have been for a time like restraint, we could have done two motos. The track, dude, it was amazing. And then our first race was at Orlando, and they just redid it. I don't know if y'all been out there. It used to be all sand, and now it's all hard packed clay.
Really?
Yeah. So,
I heard they were doing the Pee Wee track about a couple months ago now,
Yeah.
and I want to take the kids there. We just haven't made it up yet.
so now the P-Dubs, they can ride the whole track.
Yeah,
What was the
Maybe.
impetus for the change for them going from more of a sand base to clay?
I don't know. Well, so the dirt that we have now at Orlando was from Monster Jam. So I don't know the logistics on the Monster Jam side of it, but they had to get rid of the dirt, and they were like,
Aged out or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
And they called Dean, and they were like, "Do you want dirt? I mean, and who's going to turn down? What was it like? 450 loads of dirt or something like that."
Lord,
Ton of
mercy.
dirt.
I mean, it could have been 250, but it was 250 or 450. I mean, it was a ton of dirt.
And
That's
why not
awesome.
take it? It's going to be good quality. It's been
Yep.
sifted. It's been. I mean, it's.
Well, we've pulled out all kinds of
Oh.
stuff. I mean, it's like
Usually for that Monster Jam stuff, they don't care.
Are you
Yeah.
finding windshields and stuff?
Yeah.
like truck fenders.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they
Chains,
found
all that.
chains, bricks. So all the cars they crush, I guess, like when they're done with Monster Jam, they just pick the cars up. They don't pick the pieces up,
No.
and they push all the dirt together and haul it out. So like, they found a motor block in one of the piles, like before it ever made it on the track.
Yeah.
But there was like supposedly there was a motor block in one of the piles of dirt or
That's
something
wild.
like out of a 4-cylinder.
Who knew they might need to run mooses in a motocross track?
Right.
Yeah.
But man, what Dean has done with that place it's amazing. I mean, it's the dirt and the clay and the sand. It's going to keep working in. Like this rain is doing nothing but great for the track.
Yeah.
And Dean, that place is awesome. I mean, it's
That might be our bucket list this week because I told Bowen, I said we're going to hit a different track this week to get you out of the Dade City perspective. And
yeah.
we need to hit something else, and I think that might just hit the list. Then.
It's so much fun, dude. I love it. Like we had talked about, to me, people ask me, what do you think about it being hard pack now? Because I hate it. I love when it was sand. Well, I have a background in BMX, so I'm used to hard pack.
Yeah.
They're all spinning out in the corners, and for once, I feel like the fast guy because I can make it through the corner. And so I love it. I mean, Kylie, she loved it. She had a little digger 2 weeks ago, and we ended up at the hospital. But obviously she's fine. But it just got slick. I mean, it's still working in, and it was like blue grooved. I mean, yeah. So, but
Well, plus you're on a super mini that you really want to be. You want to be on the pipe to make it go, and 4 strokes we can kind of roll the throttle and get some traction. So it's just a different feeling. And the cool thing is as you progress, that feeling of you got to be on the pipe and you're gonna go get on a 4-stroke at some point, and it's to be like, oh wow, okay, this is how I can go through that corner. So yeah, I was a long veteran of the 2-stroke that's what I rode, and I finally decided I'm going to buy myself a 4-stroke.
Those super minis are gnarly bikes,
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
So we when Kylie got into it, like everybody, we tried to get into it on a budget, and she was riding a CRF 80, and she outgrew it super quick, and she wanted to race, and I was like, okay, well, I talked to a bunch of dads, and they were like, buy a brand new bike. Do not buy a used bike. Buy a brand new bike. And I was like, okay. I went and priced a brand new bike, and I was like, whoa, like we're talking like $6,000 for a super mini, just because of her height. I mean, we put her on an 80, and she was flat foot, her knees were bent, and I was like, okay, well, we got to get a big wheel or something. And I priced them, and I talked to her, and I said, hey, look, are you sure you want to do this? Because this is a big investment. Yeah. Like, I don't want to buy this bike, and then you be like, oh, well, I don't want to do it. So thank God. I mean, it costs us more money in the long run, but she came to me, and she was like, before we buy this super expensive bike, like, I just want to try it. So we ended up putting her on a YCF Biggie 150, which is the same seat height as a 100. So she rode that for a while. She raced it for, a year?
Yeah, until it started breaking every weekend.
Yeah. So, eventually she got to where the bike, we just couldn't keep up with it. And I don't remember where I was. Oh, I don't know where I was going with the story. So we got the track. He came up to me, and he was like, preacher, he's like, I always see you working on this bike. He's like, I got one on set. He's like, every weekend you're working on this bike. And so I was like, okay. I talked to Erica. He sold it to us for a crazy deal. It's a old Pro Circuit Super Mini.
Yep.
So like it's got a kit suspension for 80s, which I didn't even know they made at that point. But like, so he told us the suspension on her bike was like $5,000 for the suspension. We didn't pay $5,000 for the whole bike. But anyways, we were heading to Mesa, and we stopped and bought it on the way, and then she raced it that weekend. I told her, I was like, it's a different bike, be careful, ride it, da-da-da-da-da. So she did. We got back home, and I had an 80 when I was a kid, and I was like, I want to jump on this thing and relive my glory days. Dude, I got on it. That thing is a rocket.
He broke the back fender off.
I told her, I was like, Kylie, if I would have rode this before we bought it, I wouldn't have bought it for you.
Yeah,
they're
gnarly
rockets.
bikes. I skipped the Super Mini stage. I went from 85 straight to 250s. But those, I've rode them, I've worked on them, and I know for a fact that they are a gnarly bike. And everybody in the motocross world will say, like, that is one of the fastest bikes there is.
They are gnarly.
I remember watching Bubba ride one.
Yeah.
Because I used to go to Dade City, and when they were kids, and now they're broadcasting.
Right.
I used to go watch them ride, and it's crazy how fast they would go on those bikes. And it's like, man. And I know people have even gotten. The funny thing is, people have gotten faster. Like hasn't slowed down. They're just faster.
We talked about that this weekend. The amount of kids that got hurt.
Yeah.
And it was like you used to show up to the race and there was that one kid.
Yeah.
And now
it's all the time.
Yeah.
There's a gang of them.
Even these 50s, like the 50s that we're on, those things are nasty. For our boy's 5 years old.
Yeah.
And he's on a 50 that will just smoke. They're keeping up with 65s with the right kid on them. It's wild. I mean, and it is causing a lot more injuries. But what are you going to do about it? I mean, it's the sport, and we can't backtrack at this point.
Yeah. We were up at Sunshine this past weekend, and I think it was Jonathan Getz. He was on an 85. I don't remember what class it was or if they combined it, but I mean, he was beating the 250s.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen Jonathan Getz ride. I mean, the kid is the machine, but the kids are getting fast. I mean, super fast.
I'll throw a name out from the past, J.B. Ballard. When he was a kid, I used to watch him at Dade City on an 85, race the pro class.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how are you keeping up?
Yeah.
It's Carson Wood.
Yeah.
You watch him. He's done a couple of races here at Dade City, and he'll take his out and just annihilate the big bugs.
Well, they just ring them out. I mean, it's just you gotta know you're on the throttle going through the corner, and if you have to hit the clutch, just don't let off the gas because it's going to catch you.
He sounds like Justin Barsha going around Dade City. I love it. Kids. My cousin and I, we both when we were racing 85s, we would practice with 250s, and like it brings up my childhood. It was awesome, but that's why I made the jump from 85 to 250,
right?
Because that's just what we didn't go through that stage.
Yeah. But
now you're watching these kids go through the 50s, the 65s, the 85s, super minis. it's cool. The progression's cool, but they're wild.
Yeah, kids are crazy fast. There's real quick out at Orlando, they rebuilt Mount Bithlo, and it's 120 feet.
Yeah. It's
120, 125 feet, and I think Mason was the first kid I saw hit it on an 85.
Yeah, he was the first kid.
And I told Kylie, I was like, I know a 250 can do it. I was like, I'm pretty sure if you're screaming a 125, you'll make it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, but ain't no way an 85 is going to do it. And Mason came out there and he jumped it 3 times, and then you just heard him hit the double before it. And I took a video of it, and he just
ranging it. Yeah.
And I mean, he jumped, and it was like he Ronnie Mac, but it was on purpose. I mean, just stretching
it. Yep.
and he made it, and I was just like, you've got to be kidding me.
Wow.
And then once he did it, every kid was trying it.
Oh, you'll hear Christian Craig was one of them. Like, I'd never hit that jump, but because they did it, now I have to do it, and it's the name of the game. And that's why kids are getting hurt. That's why these adults are getting hurt. It's pros, amateurs. It doesn't matter. You have to keep up with the competition.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I remind myself every week that Mitch Payton is not looking for a 37-year-old overweight rider.
I have trouble reminding myself.
They're not gonna call me and ask me.
That's why I'm not allowed on a bike. So she turns it down. Everything to you is a competition. You got to go out there and just run it. Well, that's the mentality I've always had.
Yeah. And I tell you, that's a funny thing to try to separate, like being the preacher. Like you're chasing this guy down, and there's one corner left, and you can get him in the corner. Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you just kind of eat your pride?
That's a good perspective too.
I'm gonna say a bad joke here. I got a sign.
Right. God opened the door.
I'm trying to be funny there, but seriously, like,
that's what
I'm a
it
competitor.
would be. It'd be hard in your shoes, like, to play that mellow role and then to stuff them in the corner.
Right,
Yeah. Because I know where I'm at.
Right.
You're getting stuffed, but then afterwards you got to deal with the wrath.
No, it's all like I literally like. I like racing. I love riding my dirt bike.
Yeah.
So I can get out there and cut it up with the guys. Like, I ride in the vet beginner class, and we have so much fun.
Yeah.
We'll sit on the gate and laugh and fist bump, and then we'll hang out after the races. And, oh man, I can't believe you did that. Or one of the guys I'm real good friends with, he restores a lot of old 2-strokes, and he's got a 95 CR250 that is just cherry.
Yeah.
Tore it down, powder coated the frame, rebuilt the whole thing. I ran it over this weekend.
Oh.
He spun out in front of me, and it was like either hit him or hit the bike, and I hit the bike.
He probably would have chose you hit him.
So bad, dude. When he came back, and I was like, "I'm so sorry." And he's like, "You didn't hit me," and I was like, "Well, that's what I wanted to hear."
Yeah.
But it was just, something like that. He spent a lot of money on this bike, and it's just like we're buddies. It's. I was in a situation though, like where I had nowhere to go. It was.
Yeah, I rode practice with Matt Bell one night on a CR500, and I'm like, dude, do not let me get behind you, and if you throw a roost at me, I'm taking you out, because I don't want to eat that.
Right.
I've done it before. I actually when I was racing, I used to run an open class, it was like 2012. I had a CR500 shatter my knuckles because it threw rocks back.
Roost,
And then he ended up putting a rock right through my goggles and split me right here. From the roost, that's that northern dirt.
I had a Vince Devane at Dade City practice one day of just class, and Vince was teaching, and then he came out and rode with us, and I took the outside berm because I was on my 125. I'm like, cruising, I'm good. I'm not good, but I'm good. Well, all of a sudden Vince came in on his 450, cut the corner, squared it up, and took off, and I came into the pits, and my wife, my mechanic, my wife, my mentor, my everything. What's wrong with you? Nothing. Do you have the measles? I look like I have been shot because the roost hit me, and it hurt. It hurt real bad at the moment, but you forget you're out there for 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Come in, she's like, "Why was he so mean to you?" I said, "Well, I gave him the inside. Maybe I've learned the lesson.
Right.
Don't give the faster rider the
Yeah.
inside because it's gonna hurt."
Yep.
So I've learned that in the woods. We don't get hit with roofs. We get hit with trees and rocks and different things that just pop up. So
don't let them go under you. Let them go around you.
Yes. But I'm going to finish up real quick because because I would be remiss if I didn't mention the FTR series is finishing up the enduro side. They finished Hare Scrambles 2 weeks ago. This was the last state enduro of the year at Rich Loam. There's one more that co-sanctions with the NEPG up in Georgia 3 weeks from now. But this one it's always a special one. They only allow 200 riders because the DOF only allows them to have 200. It's at the Rich Loam Park on 471. A lot of times it's wet. I have not, but they've ridden it where it's almost like the swamp. Is the swamp. This weekend it was dry. Everything was dry. Places that usually are wet were dry. Beautiful trail, 52 miles of racing. The last test of the day, they had literally cut the test and no one pre-rode it. So there were arrows and it was cut. I didn't get to do it because I had a little incident. But my buddy that did it, he's like, honestly, it was the most beautiful trail. It was still smooth. We thought it was going to be super technical. And he did 5 miles in 15 minutes on it. So he was scooting through there. But the track was unbelievable, bumpy as can be. My GoPro will be up probably tonight or tomorrow. And it shows the first 2 tests. And then we're actually going to cover the crash because this is just a note. These public riding areas that people go to on a bike, y'all need to be careful because the Jeep roads, and I'm saying this from a person I found out today, a person that runs Jeeps, this is not what the Jeep people want. When the sandy bottoms, they will throw poles, like fence posts, in the ground parallel. Well, guess what? It's good for Jeeps.
Yeah.
But he said they don't actually like it either because what happens is when the water gets in, those posts will float.
Yeah.
They've had them go through the floorboard. They've had them go through razors out there. Well, I hit a section and I hit some of those parallel posts, and those posts don't give when you hit them. I cross-rutted.
Yeah.
Because we also cross-rut.
Right.
I cross-rutted and my right side of my body hit one of the posts on the way down on the ground, and if I had just hit the sand that was there, I would have popped back up. But I look like a beach walrus rolling around. We're talking overweight,
right?
An overweight 51-year-old man rolling around, and people asking me if you're okay, and you don't know. Like, I knew I was moving, but
yeah,
we got it all on GoPro, and lo and behold, one guy fell after I crashed. He fell, and then another guy hit it, and he was trying to figure out what happened. He passed me in the air. You can hear the bike, whoa, and it just disappears. And I'm so worried about, because of concussion, I'm so worried about picking up my goggles. I broke my goggles, and I'm picking up my goggles trying to get them. And I finally look over, and I'm like, are you all right? I didn't even know he'd fallen. But the trail was awesome. The Central Florida Trail Riders do an amazing job cutting this track. Florida Trail Riders did an amazing job hosting. It's a really cool event, and if you are an off-road motorcycle guy and you get the chance, sign up for it when it comes open because it's 200 people, and when it shuts down, it shuts down. There was like 30 people in line waiting for people that didn't show up so they could get the opportunity to ride it. But it was a fun race. I only made 4 tests. I didn't even make 4 tests. I made 3.5 tests out of the 6, and then I rode 5 miles very slowly down a Jeep road back to the camp. But same thing. We go through the same injuries. We go through the same thing with family. Try to do it economically. We're in the woods. We're hanging out with friends. We took my buddy's son went with us, and we got there. And one of his little buddies from FTR happened to be there with his mom, and my wife was there. And she's like, I never saw him the rest of the day. They hung out. They played. They were playing with stuff. They were troll hunting. If you ate these certain berries, you would turn into a troll. They were hunting for banana spiders over logs and stuff. So we don't get to do it at a confined spot, but the same thing happens just further out in the woods. It was kind of neat on my GoPro. I'm coming out to the start, and you can see a semi-tanker going down 471 as we're coming to the start. And I don't care what discipline you do as a racer, whether you're a female that's trying to be the best you can and knowing that, man, it's kind of, there's an end for me, or you're 37 or 30, maybe 51, or somewhere in between. That joy of riding with your family, camping out, and I think it's amazing having organizations like FCA that are there for your support, your guidance, message, because we all need it. Whether whether you're, I don't know, I'm going to say it, whether you're religious or not,
Right.
a good message is a good message.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we talk about these gurus and these motivational speakers that come around. Why do you listen to them? Because they're offering you something that you don't normally get to hear.
Yeah.
And if you're speaking positivity to someone that needs to hear that at that moment, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
So, I know this is one of our different episodes, but we would love to have you back, and we're also love to come to an event.
Yeah.
I know we're sponsoring one,
Yeah.
but we would also like to just come and just kind of be in the background and just show people what it's like. As, hey, this is what it's like. They're not preaching fire and brimstone to you. They're
Right.
talking to you about being a racer and being with the family. And I love to see Kylie interacting with the kids and see what that's like, because I only had the one in horse world. You're even more alone.
Right.
So we didn't have that stuff, but I would love to see what it's like as the racing preacher and as the racing preacher's daughter
Yeah.
doing her own thing. So we would love to be a part of it, Derek.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was awesome tonight. I think there's a lot more conversation to be had. So, you know, we always got to cut it short. That's what it seems like. I could do this forever. I mean, it's what we all love. We enjoy it. So, hopefully a part 2 sometime in the future. Maybe after get towards the end of the race season and talk about some more racing. And
Absolutely.
We'll maybe even after after the Dade City race, we can get back together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we'll do a couple interviews while we're there. And
if anybody wants to know more, we're on all the social media, like with Facebook, Instagram. It's Florida FCA MX, and then there's the FCAMX.org, the website. You can go on there and you can look at all the teams in all the different states and see who's running what. You can click on the state representative and get in contact with them. So if there's anything we can help you guys with, just shoot us an email or watch us on Instagram. You can kind of see what we're doing and how we do stuff. And we try to make it a lot of fun for the families, make it enjoyable for everybody. And just like what you were saying, just to touch on it, and then because I could do this all night too.
Yeah.
You know, what I love about FCA is it's all Jesus-centered, so it's not like the Fellowship of Baptist athletes or the Catholic athletes or whatever, you know. So it's like we go there and we don't have this like governing body, you know. It's just we just preach Jesus and Jesus' love, and we tie in moto with it because that's where we're at, you know. So I love and really that breaks down a lot of walls for people. Because, you know, well, I went to a Baptist church when I was a kid and I got burned. And it's like, oh, okay, good. Well, we're not a Baptist church. You know, or I went to this church or this, they did, you know, and it's like, we're not those people.
all are welcome.
Yeah.
I got married in a multi-denominational church. So same thing. That's why the chaplain that ended up being a pastor. Kylie, before we shut down, is there anything we forgot to ask for you?
I don't think so.
Do you have any final parting shots? And by the way, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
And her hair is awesome.
We said we were going to talk about hair. You forgot about that.
Yeah, we got busy talking about other stuff, but my wife will appreciate your hairstyle. She is a woman who appreciates a good hairstyle and a good, like, hey, I'm creating what I want out of my hair. It's my hair. You married what you married.
Right.
So be you. And I think that's awesome. Looks good. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Give Aunt Steph a shout out.
Yeah, shout out to Aunt Steph. She does my hair at the track almost every weekend. Get a haircut, so pretty good.
Nice. Hey, maybe that's another.
There you go.
The track barber.
There you go.
Track stylist. Sorry.
Right. They don't want me cutting their hair. They don't want me cutting their hair.
Kyle, is there anything we forgot to ask that you would want us to ask you?
No, just I appreciate you guys having us, and we'll definitely do it again.
Yeah, this is such a pleasure.
Yeah,
and,
we'll definitely do it again.
Give these guys a follow, like them. I mean, what they do is amazing, and I'm happy to see you guys excel. And I can't wait to see where all this goes from here. And we wish you guys the absolute best, and we can't wait till we're there to be a part of it.
Yeah,
so.
thank you. We look forward to it. We look forward to having other people with us.
It's coming. No, I think we had a good one tonight.
I know you'll put, when you post this up, you'll put their links and everything on
I'll
there,
tag them and everything. We'll get all involved and give us a
and if there's
give us a
anything
listen.
you guys want to use, it'll be on YouTube, so you can steal it.
I know me and Kyle are going to talk on the way home about how you two should replace Ricky in the booth.
That's fine.
I just enjoy the race. I enjoy being a part of it. I have aspirations of being involved in the business on the business side.
Right.
That's really what I enjoy. But I also don't have a problem traveling. I would be one of those guys.
Yeah.
I could do the 12 rounds of motocross with no problem.
I just love motocross. I
Yeah.
mean, that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
I could, like I said, I could talk about it for hours.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for the relationship side of it, like
Yeah,
we
it's
talked about,
hard.
I could
It's
do.
hard.
I mean, I would love to travel the pro rounds and,
Yeah.
and talk about Jesus, but I'm in love with our Florida families. You know, I mean, I love these people.
And I
Yeah.
think that says a lot. I mean, I think that's a great way.
Your integrity.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I also think over a period of time, your Florida family, as you grow that, if that opportunity comes around 5 years from now, they're
Right.
going to be like, dude, you got to pack it in. You got to go.
Yeah.
Come back and see us and tell us what it's like. What's Washougal like?
Right.
I'm sure they'd all be extremely supportive of it,
Right,
but
yeah.
Right now it's extremely hard.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that moment, you'll know when that moment
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But well, guys, it was a different episode because there wasn't any pro stuff to talk about. You got to see Derek and I talk to men and women of faith,
Right.
and Derek and I can actually put on professionalism at times. Congratulations, high five.
Right.
Good job on us. And we talked amateur racing, and that's kind of where we're going from this point forward. We look forward to seeing you guys at the track. And for everybody, episode 11 of the On the Curve podcast, we appreciate it. I'm Trey. That's Derek. Kyle, Kylie, thank you so much for joining us. Y'all have a great night, and we'll see you. Oh, are we going to do it on Memorial Day?
I believe. Yeah.
We'll see you next Monday.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.